Hi, welcome to the stream. What we're going to do is one of my clanmates sent me a picture of his roster and just asked for a little bit of help with Hydra. So I had a look through his roster, compared it to mine, and I picked out a team just where we both share champions. And we are going to focus on hard mode, because I think that's probably the most benefit for where our clan is at. And I've put together this team here because I know he has all the same champions. So I'm just going to quickly go through. I haven't geared them for this kind of team. They're actually geared for my team, so the speeds are a little bit out of whack. But we'll just go through and see what we've got. So in the lead spot, I've gone with Mithrala. That's not really my ideal for what I would personally run in the lead. I quite like to run someone that's got a turn meter boost, and if possible an AoE hit on their A1. A good example would be Mighty Uko. I use him in my, it's either my hard or my normal team, I'm not too sure. But the reason I like to have someone that does turn meter boost in that lead spot is just the type of composition I've gone for, using Inquisitor Shamael. And when we move into the Hydra fight, I'll sort of explain a little bit more about why that is. But it's just to do with counter attacks and boosting turn meter. And he's going to do a lot of both, which is going to give our leader spot a lot of extra turn meter. So that's anyone that is then in that spot that decides they're going to boost turn meter. It just means your team take more turns. It gives the illusion that the Hydra team takes less turns, and it generally translates to more control and more damage. So the fastest on my team, I think, is Mithrala. She's at 297. She's in not a great build, but I just use her a little bit in Tag Team Arena. I don't think I've currently using her anywhere else in the game. She's in one of my Hydra teams. I use her in my Brutal team, maybe, which probably explains the speed. Second fastest is probably, yeah, it's going to be Morley. She's only really in here for provoke, but she, due to her passive, also can occasionally turn meter boost all of the team by 25% whenever she's hit. But for me, it's the provoke, and I think she's so great because for each provoke she places, there's a 50% chance of placing it for 2 turns, and it just gives you loads of control. Also, the fact that she's putting reflect damage on herself can sometimes mean that she's got the most buffs, which means that she becomes the target of the Head of Mischief, who likes to steal buffs from whichever one of your champs has the most. She tends to have a lot most of the time, and she's got decent accuracy, so I'd say 9 times out of 10 she resists them being stolen, so she's a pretty good candidate. This team isn't quite speed tuned, so I think it won't just be her taken. She might actually outrun her buffs, and I imagine they'll then go to probably the slowest, which is Shamael. And then where this team is slightly wrong is we're going to just call them DPS spots. Both my DPS, they're at the same speed, which is great. But they're actually faster than my debuffer. So if this was actually going to be my team, I would fix that. I would bring her up at least 5 speed just so that she outruns those two. But Sun Wukong, it's this skill, which is kind of everything for me. He's got a block buffs, which I think is one of the top 3 most important debuffs that you can put on the Hydra team. I think provoke for me number 1, block buffs number 2, and then decrease speed will be number 3. What makes Sun Wukong so good is the way he hits with this particular skill. He places the block buffs on before he attacks, so it's not affected by affinity. Even though he's green, he will still apply it to blue. All the way around, all he needs is good accuracy. He's got plenty accuracy for hard Hydra in this build. I've got him fast. decent crit damage and all right attack. I probably could up that some, and he'd be a lot more effective. Michelle is probably one of my favourite Hydra champions, mainly because not only does he do nuts damage, but he's also putting leech out, and this team does not have any form of dedicated healer. So because of that leech, that's kind of going to be what keeps this team alive past about the 10-minute mark. Lydia, as I said, she's running a bit slow, but she's built incredibly resisty and accuracy. Again, it's an arena build. You don't need 4.5k defense for Hydra on a champion that's not really getting hit much. You certainly don't need 510 accuracy because it's she's not going to be taking the mischief buff still really at all. So she's completely overgeared for this, but probably lacking a little bit in speed. But I have got her built at 100% crit rate because it does just mean she does a little bit more damage. And since Hydra Clash, it's kind of all about the numbers now. And then, yeah, lastly, Shamail. He's only really in here for one reason, and that is this guy here. That's the Head of Torment. There are two ways of getting around Torment. One is to bring Perfect Veil, and he then won't put the thing on you. It will go through block debuffs, but it won't go through Perfect Veil. Whilst Perfect Veil is a good shout, there's not many champions that put it on an AoE. I mean, you've got your Duchess. That's probably the first one that comes to mind, but you know, not everyone's got a Duchess. You've got Tatura Rhymehide. Again, I think that was a fusion, so maybe not everyone's going to have it. So my way of dealing with it, more just for ease and laziness, is to use Shamail. And the main thing is this skill here. Not that one, it's this one, sorry. Whenever an ally receives a True Fear, which is going to be any time one of your allies hits the Head of Torment, literally any time, they're going to get True Fear, but he's instantly going to strip it off and he's going to counter attack. And the reason that has a bit of a double whammy is because not only does he get rid of the buff, which can be really annoying. If he gets eaten while that head's out, you'll sort of see why that head's so annoying, because he just puts True Fear on you and you just miss turns and blow cooldowns. But it's the fact that he also buffs the leader's turn meter, and the leader in this case is Mithrala, so it doesn't, I don't like it too much, but if you have a speed lead with someone that is also capable of boosting turn meter, that leader spot is just going to take so many more turns than the rest of your team. So it's a kind of way of turning the Torment head into a good thing, whereas it would normally be an annoying thing. So just to quickly go through setup, Mithrala having Hex out is really important all the time, especially once the Head of Mischief comes up. As for everything else, because I normally do Hydra on manual, I don't normally worry about the team setup, but for this I want to make this as auto-friendly and as easy as possible. So as long as she's prioring that, I mean, you could just put this as 2. But actually when we go through the run, you'll realise that Mithrala probably takes about 4 or 5 turns before we even get a debuff. So for the sake of auto, we'll put it like this. In fact, we'll just keep it as default for the sake of auto. But she will tend to use this skill because not only does it cleanse, it also puts strengthen and shield on you, so it's never a bad thing to have. Sun Wukong, this is his priority, is kind of the reason he's in here. Block buffs is incredibly important in Hydra. If you do get buffs stolen, you don't want them all spread around, because we've got some good buffs on our team from Lydia. Those are definitely buffs we don't want the Hydra to get. Morley, she's only really in here for the provoke. Yeah, she's a great emergency reviver. When I play on auto, I think I don't have to do this. I think she only does it when they're dead. Yep. So you can just leave Morley as she is. Just prioritize this, but she will anyway. One note about Morley, and I think this one, I've got a couple, but I think this one I'm using is built in Reflex. which allows you to, I think there's a 40% chance of getting an extra turn. Now, because she's only got 2 skills, one's the A1 and one's this, it means guaranteed if you get that proc, this skill's going to be ready for you. It's not like you've got 3 or 4 to contend with. So that's really good because you're not using this, so that's never going to be on cooldown anyway. Michaud, I don't use open wounds. I've tried with both, but this is a single target. The A1 technically is a single target, but because it will also attack everything under leech, providing it all goes well, this is pretty much going to be hitting at least 3 of the 4 heads every time you use it. So I don't use this. And another reason, once he's hit with this, which does smack, if you're playing manual, you can get around using it, but it's the fact that he places 2 continuous heals on himself afterwards. Now, he's probably the lowest resistance in the team, but if he's got the most buffs, the Head of Mischief's going to target him, and not only is he going to steal the 2 continuous heals, which he could spread around, which would be a nightmare, he's going to steal both of these. The crit damage and speed, he's probably going to steal the strengthen. He could even steal the shield from, so it's just, you don't want it, especially when he starts spreading it around. So for that reason, I leave it off. I think it's more damage this way, but the priority is this because we want to get leech out. You can't true fear the enemy team, doesn't matter, but if you can get leech on everyone, you're guaranteeing everyone's getting heals. It's probably the only way this team would stay alive for more than about 15 minutes, I think. Lydia, that's why she's here. She's got great debuffing. We're going to just prioritize that all the time. She doesn't really do a lot else. This is a really cool skill. When the Head of Blight pops up, which it inevitably will, we'll talk about it a little bit. And we'll talk about why, if I'm playing manual, I tend not to use it, only in emergency situations. And then Shemael, like I say, he's in here really for that counter-attack and turn meter boost with the removal of the True Fear, which is awesome. His A2 smacks. It hits really, really hard. He's not in a great build the way I've got him. He's in a good build, but, he's not crit capped. He's the slowest in the team. I think he's fine at that speed, but, it's Hydra. The more turns you take, the better, and the only way you take more turns is more speed. If you had a turn meter booster in the leader slot, he'd be a lot more effective. But really, he does good damage, but just good. He's not going to rival Michaud on damage. If this goes all the way to about 150, 200 mil score, you'll notice that Michaud's probably going to have like 90 mil of that, and he might maybe have 50. But he's a really good backup, and obviously he's got a lot of utility. So, into the run. We're going to just fight on normal. I'm not going to play it on auto immediately. I'm just going to run the first few sort of turns, and then we'll put it on auto just until we get the 1 key. And I'm just going to check. Hydra Hard 1 key is 20.4 million. That, with this team, is very, very easy. Okay. So another thing of note, our team, we're not overly competitive with Hydra. Every week we'll take down normal and hard, but we are not yet. We don't really have enough people that are pushing more than halfway through Brutal. So this guide's just going to be a little bit more focused on how to get your 1 key, or at least how to just craft the team without the headache. And if it works for you and you can auto it, that's brilliant. We're not competitive in that regard. It doesn't matter whether we're doing these, we're just not. So into hard, the aim is 20.4 mil, and we'll just run through why we're doing what we're doing and see where we go. Hold on. That's just defaulting to the other team. Right, here we go. I'm also going to put it on 1 speed because I just want to explain why Shemael is so important. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we can just see the turn meters of everyone. So here be the Head of Torment. I kind of call him just like the electric head whenever he's up. If any single one of these champions hits him in any way, shape or form, they're going to get True Fear. And then what's going to happen is actually there's a mechanic in Lydia she will counterattack anyone that gets a True Fear, but in doing so, she will also get a True Fear. Inquisitor Shamael, not only is he going to remove, in the first instance here it's going to be Mithrala, he's going to remove her True Fear, and he's going to remove Lydia's True Fear, and in doing so he's going to counterattack twice, because that's 2 buffs removed. So he's going to boost Mithrala's turn meter. She's going to go... Mithrala will probably go twice before maybe even the DPS have taken their turn. At least Lydia and Shamael, she'll go twice before that because she's going to just be getting boosted. So out with Hex here, and you'll see that the first thing's going to happen is Lydia's going to attack, and then Michelle's going to attack twice. And if you keep an eye on this turn meter here, you'll notice she's going to go up nice and quick. So let's start with that. Lydia counterattacks. Shamael counterattacks twice, and the whole time that happened, look, Mithrala's nearly ready to take a turn again. So this is just what makes him so great for Hydra. Especially, you can get around this head if you're running one of the crazy Trunda teams that can do a couple of billion damage, because you can just blow this head up before he even has a chance. As soon as he goes, if you've got any True Fears, which you won't have on this team with Shamael unless he's eaten, even if everyone on the team had True Fear, when this head dies, it will disappear. So Shamael is just brilliant. So next step is Morley, because we want to get this guy provoked over here, because we don't want him to strip all the debuffs we're going to put on him. Morley doesn't hit when she does this, so there's not going to be a counter attack. And then we've got Sun Wukong, and we're going to bring in the block buffs on his AoE hit. Like I said, the block buffs, the immunity with the affinity doesn't matter. He can still weak hit this blue head, but it does not affect the chances of putting the debuff on him. So we're just going to smack with that, and then the same thing is going to happen again. Lydia's going to counterattack, and then Shamael is going to counterattack twice, I think. And the whole time that happens, Mithrala's turn meter is going up. So I think after Sun Wukong's taken his turn, I think the next spot is actually going to be Mithrala again. So let's see. So we go, counterattack. And then here, counterattack. 1, 2. Perfect. At this point, we could buff up. So we'll do that as if we were playing it on auto. We've got no debuffs on us, and this is obviously a cleanse. But we'll just use it for the sake of argument here. When playing higher levels and you're basically manualing the run, I'd save stuff like this until you know you're just about to get a smack, because obviously it's got the shield and the strengthen. But we'll just use it for now because it doesn't matter. For hard, Mithrala is currently going so fast it really doesn't matter. The speed tune is a bit of an issue here, because ideally right now I'd like Lydia to go, because then she'll defense weaken. But that's fine, it will just be on the next turn, so we're going to buff up. Leech is on all of the heads. If you get to a point where it doesn't land on one of the heads, because of the way the mechanic of this thing works, I would target the head that hasn't got a leech on it, and then that way you're still going to hit 4 heads. So we're just going to smack. The same thing is going to happen again. Lydia's going to counterattack, Shamael's going to counterattack, and Mithrala's turn meter is going to go up. So let's hit. There we go. Counterattack. And look at the turn meter. There you go. She's already ready to go again. So now we'll debuff, even though we should have done that a couple of turns ago. But the same thing's going to happen. Counterattacks. Turn meter. Counterattack. So when this head is out, I actually, even if it's an affinity, it's not with Mithrala, but even if I was using, say, Sun Wukong, I would still hit this, because I think the turn meter boost and the counterattack is really valuable. So we're going to do that. It's going to happen again, and we're just going to watch Mithrala's turn meter just shoot up again. Well, nearly ready to go again. Again, this head. Every time, this head. Counterattack, boost. It's boring and I'll say it so many times, but it's just what makes this run kind of so easy, because there's so many things you don't have to worry about. Once again, turn meters up high. Even though it's an affinity issue, I'm going to hit this boss. Counterattack, turn meter. It's a bit hit or miss because this will be affected by affinity. His A2, I'd like to save this for when you're hitting something decapitated, because it can hit real hard, like upwards of nearly 1 million maybe with my build. But we're just going to blow it here anyway. It does ignore 50% of the target's defense. So if we get a weak hit, we get a weak hit. If we don't, we get a nice hit. What are we going to get this time? Yeah, nice hit, 180k. Counterattack, turn meter. Same again and again and again. And at this point, it is just repetition. Just checking that everyone's got leech. Yep. Right now I'm just focused on getting this head down. There is an argument, depending on your team setup, to leave that head alive. So that you're getting more turn meter and counterattack. But when your lead is Mithrala, I don't really see any gain in that. If you were running someone like a Necmo, or for a long time I actually used to just run Deacon, because he's got his defense down. I think he also has a leech on an A1. And also he's boosting turn meter by about 20%, and I think my Deacon's around about 300 speed, so he was just boosting this team all the time. I mean, I don't think the Hydra even takes a turn until we've done about 5 or 6 mil damage. But we're just going to keep smacking this, because it's now the exposed head or the decapitated head. We don't need cleanses. We also don't need a provoke, because there's already one up. So I would personally save it. If you're running on auto, it's going to do it anyway. It's kind of hit or miss. There is a chance that when I apply this, I'll get the 50% chance of placing 2 turns. But if that doesn't happen, then it stays as 1 turn. This head's obviously going to use it. Well, it can't use any skills, but it's going to run through. And then I might not have it up in time. I will, because she's too fast, but sometimes I think it's best to just stay safe in Hydra, so we're just going to keep hitting normally. Right, now we've started to take a little bit of damage. What you will notice, especially on some of these damage dealers, is the destroyed HP. That is just the nature of Hydra. I think on release it could destroy it all the way, whereas now after a fix a long time ago, they've capped it that you can only lose 25%. There are ways of getting around it, like you've got the curing set, which restores destroyed HP. After doing Hydra for so long, I now just sort of accept the fact that when I go into Hydra, my champs have 75% HP, and I just kind of deal with it. These are well geared champs. They can handle the sort of damage this does, and if it gets really bad, we do have Morley that can revive one of them, and obviously Sun Wukong can bring himself back to life. So same again. Leeches out with that, speeds up. We just want the most damage. That was an example there of Lydia actually taking the mischief. She had the most buffs, but she's got so much resistance it never happened. I can see that we don't actually have block buffs out at the moment. I'm hoping on Sun Wukong's next turn we can get that. There's nothing too dangerous going on at the moment, so we can just keep fighting away. Keeping Hex up, because that's really powerful. that the great thing about Hex is all the heads have it at the moment. I'm going to hit this head, and you'll notice whatever I hit it for, a percentage of that also is distributed to the other heads, and that makes things really, really great when you're using quite an AoE heavy team. This team, yeah, I'd say is pretty AoE heavy. What we've also got is we've got the Mischief head, and he cannot be targeted unless he's hexed, I believe. I think it's saying it in there. I think in order to hit him, you have to have him hexed, so good to keep this up. So yeah, we'll watch I call it the splash damage from the hex. There you go. Everyone got hit for about 15k. It's about 10% of what the hit is. We still don't need to use the provoke, so we're just going to smack. So now I've got that cooldown nice and ready on Morley when she bounces back round. We've got block buffs now, so we're going to do Sun Wukong Big Smack. He's obviously not going to get healed because he's got his decrease heal. Mithrala can cleanse that off in a minute. Who are we going to get? Oh, we got this head again. So it's basically just back to boosting turn meter, really. I'm going to pop it, now that we see what it's doing, I'm going to pop it on 2x speed. And I'm actually going to put it on auto, just so we can watch it run through. We're at 5 mil damage, 5.5 mil, we're a quarter of the way there. Let's just put it on auto. I think now that I'm looking at this team, if there's maybe one thing I would probably do different, I would consider moving Machard into the lead spot, because he's just doing, he's doing all the damage work in this team. He has got an aura which is increased speed. Sorry, no, he's got an aura which increases attack, and that would actually benefit Inquisitor Shmael, Machard. I think Lydia's damage is based off attack, as is Sun Wukong, so that's probably a little mistake on my part, because I think I'd probably rather have the buffs that Machard's putting out than that Mithrala's putting out, plus she's going fast anyway. Yeah, I think the better improvement to this team would be to put Machard in the lead. So he's constantly getting boosted, he's constantly hitting, he's always healing himself. He is quite squishy. I don't have his stats on screen at the moment, but his base defense is very low. Oh, we got that out there then, that's not good. The guy that sent me his roster, he's actually got a 5-star. I think it was a 5 Machard. So I think he'd get a lot more benefit out of this particular composition. So this Head of Torment's about to go down again. We're well over halfway and we haven't even had one champion eaten yet. So if you did just kind of want a one and done, it's really no hassle if you can just kind of tackle the main two mechanics. And I think especially on rotation 1 that we're on now and we're on next week, it's that True Fear from the Torment, which is up all the time. And that's kind of it really. What we haven't had yet, I'm kind of hoping, just for argument and demonstration's sake, that when this comes back we get the Head of Blight, because then I'll explain a little bit about why I keep one of Lydia's skills free all the time. What are we going to get? Yeah, cool. Right, we got the Head of Blight. I'm going to pause it for a moment. This guy, in this team, this is another reason Shmael's so good, because he attacks all enemies and places poisons on everyone. And because that's considered obviously a debuff, Shmael will start counter-attacking. And again, it's just more damage, it's more turn meter. When we cycle back round to Lydia, So we'll just go auto. I will explain why I keep one of Lydia's skills free, more so when I'm trying to really rack up bigger numbers. For this demonstration, it's just all about getting to the key. Provoke. Everyone's got leech. Yep. So Lydia, it's on at the moment. Obviously, we're running auto. The biggest pain for this head, and it seems to always happen whenever you really don't want it to happen, is when it puts out the poison cloud, and this just completely neuters your ability to put buffs on the enemies. Put debuffs on the enemies. I can't remember what percentage it cuts your damage down by, but it feels like 99%. It feels like it always happens that when your champion is just about to be devoured and, you know, gone forever, this poison cloud appears on the head that you're just about to kill, and that's it, the run's over. A bit like the Torment head, if life barrier is up on all of the champion, all of the Hydras, and you kill this head, it will disappear off of all of them. So it works the same as Provoke, it works the same as True Fear, and obviously with this Poison Cloud as well. So I like to keep this skill for Lydia, so that if I don't have block buffs available as an AoE, let's say Sun Wukong's been eaten, I like to keep this for free. Because what I will do is I will target the head of Blight with this, which means that even if all of the other heads have got Poison Cloud on it, I can continue to smack this guy. So I'm not completely useless. I can just keep smacking, and you know, he might die, might get rid of all of the poison clouds. Might be the difference in between the run, you know, going big or getting cut very short. So we're just going to keep autoing. The most important thing right now is we have got block buffs on everyone. Doesn't matter about decapitated, providing this doesn't, yeah, it doesn't matter. So when this guy goes to do his skill, nothing's going to happen. We're going to be fine. Right, we're getting close to Sun Wukong being eaten. So we're just going to try and throw as much damage out of him as possible. He will get another turn. He will get a chance to put his block buffs up again. See, he used his skill. No one got Poison Cloud. We can just carry on. Everything is fine. Do some much damage as possible before he gets eaten. That's now okay, so he didn't get another turn. That's alright. So for now, you know the drill. Hydra, just keep battering this head. This is where AoE champions are really good, because whilst it's obviously very important to target this guy to get your champ back, especially if one of your champs is your DPS, having to switch, you know, what I'd really rather be hitting this head over here, the damage is going to be easily double what I'm doing here, but getting him back is more important than chasing numbers. If Shamail had his A2, he would have freed him in one. We've got the Torment head back. So it's just going to be another game of get counterattacks. I'm going to still prioritise trying to get Sun Wukong out. He's coming out as soon as Michelle takes a turn. Just deciding. Right, here's an example. It's a bad example because we've still got... When a head first appears, it's kind of protected for one turn. We have got Leech on everyone except for this guy. So if I was to smack any of these three heads, it's going to do damage to these three, but it's not going to do damage to him. So I'm going to double whammy this and I'm going to hit him, all of these guys, and then I'm going to get the Mithrala and Lydia turn meter boost going again. So we're going to smack. Oh, we nearly got him out. He'll come out in a sec. But we still got 5 turns. As you move up to like towards 1500 turns, when it will time your run out, this devouring, I think, is only for 1 or 2 turns, and it can get real hairy. But that's not what we're going for today. We're just, I mean, we've already done the 1 key. So let's just get the monkey back as soon as possible. There he is. My priority on him right now. And as you can see, Shamel's counter-attacking for all of these debuffs that are put out. Normal debuff counterattacks don't boost turn meter. It's only the True Fear ones, but it's all good. Let's just kill this. I'm actually going to leave it there because at the end of the day we got a key. And it just sort of goes to show, well, it's not too difficult because of a combination of a few. And okay, you might not rack up this damage in that time if the gear's lower, or sorry, in that turn count. But if you follow this as a general rule, being that block buffs needs to be up all the time, you need a way of provoking this head because he's a nightmare, unless you just want to go full nuke on him. But I suspect if you've got the gear to go full nuke and just ruin a head before it has a chance to be a problem, you probably don't need to watch this video. But yeah, that's in a nutshell a very, very simple Hydra team. And I think the guy in my guild that showed me his roster, if he's got his champions built anything like these, he can definitely, he's easily going to rack up like 70 to 150 mil depending on how he plays it. So yeah, that's that. I would quite like to try just switching these two characters here, because I do think this team would actually benefit more from having more attack than it would from having the accuracy. If you look at everyone's stats, 480 accuracy, 495, 300. We've got enough accuracy for hard Hydra. I think you need around about 350 tops. So it's not so much of an issue on Shamel. He doesn't really need the accuracy for what he's doing here. His A1 does have a chance to decrease the duration of a buff on a target, but if we're playing properly and using the mechanic right, they're not going to have buffs. So he doesn't actually need the accuracy. So what we could benefit more from is Michaud going in the lead. So I'm just going to do that. Got to find him. I think he was 2-star. There he is. Mithrala. Just go back in and turn that off. Cool. And then we'll just run it for like a couple of minutes. In fact, we'll run it to the 1 key and just sort of see what results we're going to get. Completely auto. I will not pause it, but we will just see the constant repetition of boosted turn meter and counter attacks. And I think with Michaud, that's actually going to be a really good shout because he does a lot of damage. I've been quite unlucky in the latest gear set rolls in terms of attack champions. I've had some fantastic HP damage sets, which I've managed to put on. I think Arix, I've got a 9-piece Slayer set on him. Michaud, if you had good attack gear in Slayer, he would be fantastic, especially in this composition, because he would be going a lot, and obviously on that 9-piece he's got a chance of repeating the attack. Everything is an AoE with him. He would be doing bonkers damage, especially if you combine it with my clanmate who's actually got the 5-star Michaud. He would be an absolute beast. Right, we've had our first decap. One thing I'll say about this composition, it's not an overly fast team, because every time this Torment is out, you've got to suffer this back and forth with the counter-attack and turn meter. Obviously, it's beneficial for your team, but it is a bit of a slog to sit and watch. Right, so we're halfway there. In 2.5 minutes, it's great. As you can see up here, that's a bit of a nightmare whenever a champion you don't want their buffs nicked. He got nicked, but everyone else has. Well, not this guy. We'll see what happens. It's not the end of the world. It is just on hard, but it would be better if this wasn't spread across all the other heads. The only thing this team isn't bringing, which I think is extremely important for Hydra, especially if you want to be a bit more competitive with your scoring, yeah, that's annoying. That's really annoying. Is decreased speed. It's quite nice to have decreased speed out on them. I'm not going to worry too much about this. I mean, this duration, that's actually Shamail that pulled the duration down on that with his A1. This guy, he's just going to have strength and speed, and no, he's not, because Sun Wukong nicks it. I stand corrected. This is why the monkey is tremendous in Hydra. Obviously, he's a fantastic arena champ, and I think you can get away with a similar build. Yep, Shamail's putting in good work. It's a good team. The only person that in this team, because I was running a very similar team to this originally, is I found that whilst Morley is borderline irreplaceable, she doesn't do a lot. At least for the gear on my account, I can't get her at that speed she's at. I think she's like 270, something like that. I couldn't get her that fast with all the accuracy and all the resistance, as well as with 100% crit rate and a bit of crit damage, but she does actually hit really hard. She's got pretty tough multipliers, but for me, I found it was more important to get those provokes out as quick as possible than it was to focus on damage. So she's the weak link on damage, but she's ace. So there you go, 4 minutes 49. I'm going to stop it there. We have done the 1 key, because I think the 1 key was 20.4 mil damage. I like the team a bit more seeing Michaud go more, because he's just a monster. So there you go. That is one way of getting around the Hydra. So to Dav, build your team a bit like that and you're easily going to smash through. As far as this Hydra clash goes, obviously, like I say, we're not a competitive clan. There's no expectation in our team that we hit... in our clan that we're going to smash the first place and everyone's got to get 1 billion. We don't care. It's not a problem. Whilst it's nice to end up in third and get a little bit of reward. If you do end up in third, I'd rather have this chest than I would have this chest. So, the more you can throw at the Hydra, the better. And I do believe that team we were just using, I think with a little bit of speed tuning, especially to make Lydia faster than these guys, I think it'd be easily capable of putting out, I don't know, like I say, about 150 mil damage, probably just on auto. So it's a good team. It works. It's actually similar to how I run my Brutal team. That does actually use a combination of Shamail. I don't have Lydia because... it's just a different setup, but Shamail is just constantly boosting Necmo, who is fast. He's 338, and obviously Necmo does turn meter boost on the team, so this team just takes so many turns compared to the Hydra, and it allows me to rack up a good score. It's not great, but it's a good score. So that's kind of it. In my earlier stream, I did the gear cleanse. I don't actually have any more gear to cleanse. So maybe we'll save that for another night. But yeah, that is kind of as simple as I can put the Hydra. I'm no expert at Hydra. I've just watched loads of people do it, and I've fiddled around with teams. This whole ability to free regroup is fantastic. Unlike the clan boss, where obviously you're stuck with it. So it is good. It's a good team and it works. So I hope that helps. And mate, if you've got any questions, just get in touch. We'll sort it out. And that is the end of that.